Kawaki thinks that he's protecting Naruto, but in reality, he might just be creating his own worst enemy. When Kawaki threatened Amado again in this latest chapter, saying that he's not going to revive his daughter unless he gives him even more power, it wasn't just another edgy moment from a boy obsessed with Naruto. It was a moment where Kawaki might have crossed the line that no shinobi, no otsutsuki, no human being can ever truly walk back from. Because here's the truth. The most dangerous person in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex might not be someone like Jura, someone who is going to give Boruto fans bigger nightmares than Jigen gives Naruto and Sasuke fans when you say Jigen's name 3 times fast and remind them that Jigen beat Naruto and Sasuke in a collective 5 hits in their first fight in the manga. It's not even someone like Code. It's not even Kawaki. Instead, it might be Amado. And between Kawaki's gaslighting, the threats that he is doing, and his desperation for power, it might be turning someone like Amado into something that is utterly terrifying. So join me in today's newest Naruto Explained video where your OBC, your original Boruto chief, talks to you about why we're watching Kawaki's biggest mistake yet, how he's turning Amado into a monster, and also, if you haven't already, make sure to check out that chapter review, which will be linked in the description box and in the end credits. Also, don't forget to check out my new My Dress Up Darling video for my Anime Explained channel, where I discuss non-Naruto anime and manga, which will also be linked down below and in the end credits. So let's just start first and foremost with Kawaki being the obsessed little boy that he is, and obviously Kawaki's breaking point. So Kawaki's obsession with power, it's always been tied to one thing or another. That's what makes his obsession with Naruto something that makes him a very well-written character. He has his fear of loss. He sealed Naruto away so that nobody could hurt him, and also to protect him from what he believes are unavoidable threats. The Tentos, Code, Boruto, Momoshiki, now Jura, maybe even the billionaire shinobi hiding behind the corner with the list of names that went to his island. You just never know who Kawaki's gonna protect Boruto's father from. With Kawaki, every threat is just a different shade of danger circling around the same person, that person being Naruto, because Naruto is the one who gave Kawaki a thing he's never had before, a family. So when he corners Amado, demanding more power, no matter the cost, saying outright he doesn't care if it destroys his body, it's the clearest sign yet that Kawaki, that boy, is spiraling. He's not seeking strength to live. He's seeking strength so that he can control fate itself. And that's what makes this so tragic. Kawaki is acting out of what he believes to be love, but every time he uses Amado like a pawn as a cheap power-up, every time he is dangling the promise of reviving his daughter, using her like a hostage, he's not truly protecting Naruto like he thinks. He thinks that by getting power, he's going to be able to eliminate threats to Naruto. But he's also becoming exactly what Amado once worked under and eventually turned against: Jigen and Isshiki Otsutsuki. That's a cycle of abuse that began when Jigen first approached Amado, and we see how Amado played the long game, got Jigen destroyed, and did everything possible to set the stage for Isshiki to be destroyed. Only this time, Kawaki is now the one that is holding the knife. He might be the one who Amado once again turns on. Not so much trying to get Kawaki killed, because he ultimately needs him to revive his daughter. But there are ways to betray someone without actually having them killed. And that's the beauty of Amado's character here, because he has a broken humanity to him. To truly understand how dangerous this dynamic is for a character, you have to understand what Amado's already done. Amado's story, it isn't about power. It's truly a story about grief. I go over it in my video essay titled The Morality of Amado Sanzu, but his daughter's death, it shattered him. And that's a wound that turned him into a man who would do anything for a second chance. Under Jigen's rule, Amado experimented on and killed dozens of children, sacrificed their lives in order to meet those demands, all while secretly working towards the impossible dream of reviving his own child. And what makes him one of Boruto and just Naruto in general most tragic characters, is that unlike the shinobi from Naruto's era, who we are told and we are taught by them that the king on the shogi board represents the children, the future of the village, the future generations that must be protected at all costs, Amado is basically the inversion of that ideal. For him, the king isn't the children of the next generation. Instead, the king for him is just his child, his single, irreplaceable daughter. He's gone as far as to try to clone her 3 separate times. That is why Delta has multiple bodies. That is why Ada says, yeah, Amado's real daughter has a different personality than the Delta we know. He doesn't fight for the world's future. He fights for his own past. And when a man like that is pushed into a corner, when Kawaki threatens to rip away the only reason he is still breathing, you're not just threatening a scientist, you are now threatening a father. And that is the most dangerous thing you can do, because as history and real life have shown us, fathers who have already lost everything, they don't care about consequences. In fact, if you go to Boruto episode 220, that episode shows you very beautifully when Naruto has his nervous breakdown, his panic attack. A father on the verge of losing everything. If having to choose between their child and the world, they choose their child. Naruto's flat out told, if Momoshiki revives into Boruto's body, you can't stop him, he's gonna destroy the world. Naruto's like, I'm not killing my child. Despite the fact that even Sasuke's like, hey, that little MF for Boruto, you need to take a Rasengan and shove it in his back. If you won't do it, I'll do it. And that's what makes Kawaki's power demand a truly fatal mistake. When Kawaki tells Amado that he wants more power, even if it kills him, and that Amado's best bet is just to bet on Kawaki not dying, it's more than a moment of desperation. It is psychological warfare. Kawaki's essentially saying here, you either obey me or your daughter, she stays dead forever. That's not a request. That is gaslighting. That is blackmail. And that's the kind that cuts deeper than any kunai. Kawaki doesn't even realize that by forcing Amado to act under duress, he's not controlling him. Instead, he is corrupting him. He's pushing him into a corner. He's turning a very broken man with a very shaky moral compass into a monster with one objective: find a way to break free eventually. And when that kind of a man eventually decides that he's had enough, he doesn't fight fair. He fights with science. He fights with intellect. He fights with a kind of cold, calculating cruelty that makes even someone like Kawaki, who is a pragmatic consequentialist at heart, he makes someone like Kawaki look like Kiba. You don't take him seriously in this world of gods and monsters. He is someone who knows Kawaki very well and knows what might make Kawaki vulnerable. And here's the thing. It's because Amado is not a shinobi that makes him so dangerous. He doesn't play by shinobi rules. That's why I brought up how he is the inversion of Asuma's speech about the king. He doesn't care about honor or glory or fate or village. The only thing he cares about is results. The only thing he cares about is his daughter. The only thing he cares about is his own ambitions. And right now, Kawaki is pushing him closer and closer to a point where results, they might mean dabbling in things that he doesn't truly understand. I'm looking at those shibai cells that Amado, through ways we don't know, got his hands on stuff like that. He knows a lot about the Otsutsuki clan that has never been told to us how he knows so much. And that brings me to the Frankenstein parallel. So in a lot of ways, Kawaki is doing exactly what Dr. Frankenstein did in literature. So he's trying to create something that is beyond his own comprehension, using someone else's suffering as fuel. But here's the irony. Kawaki in this situation, he's not Frankenstein. Instead, he's arguably Frankenstein's monster. He was made, he was experimented on, he was used as a vessel, he was stripped of control. Amado basically, literally remodeled his entire body down to the cells in his body with literal ninja tech. Kawaki is a literal ninja tool. He's a human being. He He's a cyborg. He's a literal ninja tool. And he is unintentionally doing the same thing to Amado, but not in the literal sense. The boy who once cried to try to escape a life of manipulation, tried to escape what was going on with Jigen and Isshiki. He has now become the very manipulator that he is despised. He is a victim of obsession. And much like Frankenstein's monster, Kawaki, his tragic flaw in his character is that he's failing to see the humanity in others. And it's because he is driven by his own fear of loss, in particular this loss being Naruto. He sees Boruto, Naruto's son, as a threat. He sees Ada as a tool that he's been using. He sees Amado as another tool, never realizing that tools, they can be turned into weapons when pushed too far. And as we see with Ada, she's already helping Boruto and has been helping Boruto long before Boruto and Kawaki made their alliance. It's important to remember Kawaki physically threatened Ada with an unspoken threat in chapter 80 of Boruto Naruto Next Generations. This also now brings me to Amado's potential breaking point and the path to darkness for the character. So, if you can't tell by now, what I'm basically saying is that a man like Amado, he can only take so much. His entire life has been one long series of moral compromises. He has killed dozens of children. He has manipulated people. He has caused the deaths of multiple KRYPTONIans. He has played four-dimensional chess with people like Jigen and Isshiki. He has played God with human biology. Again, he remodeled the bodies of everyone from Ada down to Kawaki, making them all cyborgs, all for the chance to save his daughter. In fact, he played God by trying to clone his daughter. But now, Kawaki is the one dangling that chance in front of him. The more that Kawaki pushes, the more that those wounds reopen. And eventually, something has to give, because Amado is a very, very dangerous man and a very vulnerable and desperate man. It's not that hard to imagine a scenario where Amado eventually snaps, where he decides that if Kawaki won't let him bring his daughter back to life through the Karma Seal, through willing means, he might find another way, because Kawaki has to get his body updated by Amado. There's also, again, Amado might potentially still have shibai cells. It is implied that he has shibai cells. That's how he gave them to the KRYPTONIans. Amado could start experimenting with uncontrollable aspects, because otsutsuki science and technology, if you take what Orochimaru said in Boruto's anime, it's all stuff beyond human comprehension, but Amado is arrogant enough to think that he can do it. Amado is the only person alive who has extensive information about the divine biology of otsutsuki. He's the man who took normal human beings and made them into cyborgs capable of rivaling gods. If Kawaki keeps forcing his hand, Amado, he might start taking other measures. Because the beauty about Boruto being a story just as much about science and where it fits in the world of shinobi is that it allows for you to explore things like the concept of what happens when a scientist loses faith in morality and mortality itself and gains faith in desperation itself. You don't get a savior. Instead, you get a creator of monsters, potentially a monster itself. And this is where it gets more beautiful, because it continues to be an inversion when it comes to one of the core themes of Naruto. So that's what's beautiful and very haunting. This whole setup with Amado mirrors the world of Naruto's manga, but it flips it upside down. In Naruto, Shikamaru and Asuma and the third Hokage talk about how the king and shogi represents that next generation, the children. Everything the older generation does, every sacrifice, every battle, is meant to protect them. But in Boruto's era, that belief is fractured because Amado's king isn't that next generation. Like I said earlier, it's his child. I have to restate that because Amado is a man that never grieved the death of his daughter. Instead of spending the time he should have spent with her in her final moments, he was already trying to play God and find a way to bring her back to life before she ever died. His actions, as twisted as they all come from love, a parent's desperate instinct to save their offspring. Kawaki, ironically, embodies that same impulse. He's doing everything to protect his adopted father, Naruto, but the difference is that Kawaki's love is just as destructive as Amado's, and it's the opposite of how Naruto's love was love that created. Naruto built bonds. Kawaki, his love is burning bridges. And if that pattern continues, Kawaki might not just lose someone like Amado, he might have created his greatest adversary. And that's why I love talking about Kawaki's character as well as Amado's character, because Kawaki's greatest flaw isn't his rage or his power. I know that as Battle Shonen fans, again, we like to see things go boom, boom, bam, bam. We like to say this character scales to this septillion of that quintillion, blah, 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 blah. Who gives a fuck about that shit right now? What I'm saying is that Kawaki's blindness is what we should be looking at. He thinks the world can be controlled through force. He thinks that fear can be conquered through domination. He is a consequentialist. As long as he gets what he desires, he doesn't care what he has to do. That's why I said Naruto's love, it builds bridges, it builds bonds. Kawaki's love, it burns those bridges down. In trying to control Amado by using his daughter's resurrection as leverage, he is potentially awakening something that Kawaki himself doesn't truly understand, despite the fact that he embodies this, which is human desperation. And that's the irony of this whole situation. Gods exist in the world of Boruto, but it's still humans who are the most unpredictable creatures of them all. Kawaki wanted something to protect Naruto. Everything he's done is protect Naruto. And yet, at the end of the day, he might just be creating a monster that might lead to the world heading towards a moment of destruction that has to be averted. Because Amado, being a grieving father, is going to open up a Pandora's box that we don't see just yet. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and clicking here to check out more videos from Naruto Explained, or click here to check out videos from my Anime Explained channel.